Welcome back everybody, my name is Tucker, and in today's video I will be sharing with you the results of me simming through the 2019 NBA playoffs in NBA 2K19 30 times over. This is an exercise that I swore I would never do again after how incredibly long it took me to sim through the entire regular season in a previous video. But even though this still took a ton of time, the simulation itself didn't take nearly as long to complete this time because obviously it takes less time to just simulate the playoffs 30 times than it does to simulate the entire regular season 25 times as I did previously, so it was all about just powering through the tedious task of recording the data. Before we get into the video, I just want to say that obviously this is not what 2K is intended to be used for. It's a video game, not a professional simulator, so expect to see some pretty strange results, once again just like there were last time around. Also, this was done with all of the default settings that 2K comes with when you go to simulate through. The difficulty, the injuries, the sliders, all that stuff are exactly the way it would be if you just started up the game like I did. I halfway considered getting rid of the injuries just because I kind of wanted to see what each team would do as currently constructed, but at the same time, injuries are a realistic part of the playoffs. Injuries will happen in the playoffs and have an impact on them, so I figured it made more sense to leave them in, and that might explain some of the weirder results that you'll see in this video as well. With that said, let's get into it. Starting off with the results from top to bottom for the teams that made the Western Conference Finals. The Warriors made it 26 times, the Thunder 20, the Blazers 8, Rockets 4, and Nuggets 2. The biggest takeaway here for me was that the Rockets number was so low because they ended up having to play the Warriors in the second round every single time because of the side of the bracket that they're on. So if they advance past the Jazz, they end up having to face the Warriors because the Warriors never lost to the 8 seed. Funnily enough, the first time that I did the simulation, the Rockets actually ended up winning the championship, which you'll see later, and then after that, they only made the Western Conference Finals 3 more times. And then on the other half of the bracket, there was only one team that didn't make a Western Conference Finals appearance, and that was the Spurs. The Blazers, Thunder, and Nuggets all made it. The Thunder the most amount of times because they ended up defeating the Trailblazers in the first round in the 6-3 matchup a lot of the time. And then the Nuggets and Spurs ended up not being that big of a challenge for them in the second round, and this is a scenario that I could actually see coming true in this year's playoffs. The Oklahoma City Thunder, even though they're sliding a bit to end the season, they're a very, very dangerous and talented 6th seed. We know that the Blazers have struggled mightily in the past 2 playoffs, and they got swept last year as a 3 seed by the 6th seed, and I would not be shocked at all if that's what happens again this year. Now, even with that said, having them make the Western Conference Finals 20 out of the 30 times still seems a bit high for me, but given the side of the bracket that they're on, it does make sense. Moving on now to the Eastern Conference Finals from top to bottom, we had a lot of different teams representing the East. Only one team on the entire side of the bracket did not make the Eastern Conference Finals at least one time, and that was my very own Brooklyn Nets. They never even advanced past Philadelphia in any of the simulations that I did. They lost in the first round every single time. From top to bottom, in terms of Eastern Conference Finals appearances out of 30, the Celtics made it 18 times, the Sixers 14, the Raptors 14, the Bucks 8, Pacers 2, Magic 2, and Pistons 2. Yes, you're reading that correctly. The Magic and Pistons both made the Eastern Conference Finals 2 different times. So there's lots of weird stuff to go through here. First of all, the Pistons were strangely effective against the Bucks and upset them as the 8 seed in the first round a lot, which made the Celtics' path to the conference finals easier, but they also did defeat the Bucks a good amount of times when they actually advanced as well. Also, as I said, the Sixers never lost to the Nets in the first round, and even though the Raptors did lose to the Magic on 2 different occasions, for the most part, it was just the Raptors and Sixers in that half of the bracket facing off against each other for a chance to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they were pretty even in those matchups. So what's happening here is similar to what's happening on the Western Conference side of the bracket, just flipped a little bit, where the top side in the East is the side where you're seeing a lot more upsets and craziness, just like you're seeing in the bottom side in the West, and the bottom side of the East is mostly dominated by 2 teams being Toronto and Philadelphia, whereas the top side in the West is being dominated almost completely by the Golden State Warriors. So just a summary really quick before I move on to the NBA Finals, the only 2 teams in the entire simulation that did not advance past the first round in any of the sims were the Clippers playing against the Warriors and the Nets playing against the Sixers. Every other team made it to the second round at least once, and the only teams that didn't make the conference finals at all were the Jazz, Spurs, Nets, and Clippers. Moving on now to the Western Conference side of the NBA Finals, there were only 3 representatives here. The Warriors 24 times, the Thunder 4 times, and the Rockets 2. Like I said, the very first time I went through the simulation, the Rockets somehow ended up winning the championship. They defeated Golden State in 5 games, and then ended up in the championship game. And on occasion as well, the Thunder were able to defeat the Warriors in the conference finals and make the finals themselves. And I will say that the majority of the time that those two teams faced each other in the Western Conference Finals, they were very, very competitive series. It's not like Golden State was just sweeping through the Thunder every single time. It was definitely a competitive matchup, but in the end, as you can see, 24 out of the 30 times that I ran this simulation, the Golden State Warriors did end up making the NBA Finals. On the Eastern Conference side of the finals, as you probably could have guessed, there's a lot of parity. There were 5 different teams that ended up representing the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. From top to bottom, those were the Celtics with 14, the Sixers with 6, the Raptors with 6, the Pistons with 2, and the Magic with 2 as well. Yes, once again, the Magic and Pistons coming out of nowhere as surprises, and each of them represented the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals 2 different times. And these results in the East are interesting to me just because, like I talked about before, the Celtics' path to the Eastern Conference Finals was made pretty easy in a lot of these because the Pistons somehow ended up defeating the Bucks in the first round a lot of the time. But even once they got to the Eastern Conference Finals and they were playing teams like the Raptors and the Sixers, they were definitely holding their own and coming out on top in a lot of those matchups, as you can see, 14 appearances in the finals. And then with the rest of the teams, honestly, if you did this simulation 100 times or 200 times, I don't know that the Pistons and Magic would end up making the finals in any of those other simulations. I just happen to have it happen 4 different times to me, so you could probably spread those appearances out to the Sixers and Raptors, and those are obviously going to be the big 3 teams competing to get to the NBA Finals out of the East. In addition to the team that I forgot and haven't talked about this entire time because apparently 2K forgot about them as well, the Milwaukee Bucks did not win the Eastern Conference a single time. Like I said, they had issues with Detroit, they had issues with the Celtics. They were never able to make the finals despite making the Eastern Conference Finals 8 different times. And now we get to the results of the actual NBA Finals, and these results are actually pretty promising if you're a fan that's hoping for something other than a Golden State Warriors championship when it comes down to it. And as I say that, yes, the Warriors still ended up winning 2/3 of the championships in this simulation. They won it 20 times, but 5 different teams ended up winning the championship in these simulations. The Sixers had 4, the Celtics had 2, the Raptors had 2, and the Rockets had 2 as well. And the first thing that sticks out to me here is the fact that the Rockets won 2 finals despite making the conference finals only 4 times. So their big obvious roadblock here, as is for most of the teams, if not all of the teams, is the Golden State Warriors. Once they were able to advance past them, they did very well in the postseason. Half the time that they made the Western Conference Finals, they ended up making the finals, and then every single time they made the finals, 2 out of 2 times they ended up winning the championship. On the other side, not really a huge surprise here, especially because the Bucks were so awful in this simulation. Only 8 out of the 30 times did a team from the Eastern Conference end up winning the championship, with the Sixers with the most, obviously. And last up now, Finals MVP. Steph Curry, interestingly, was the only Warrior out of all 20 of their championships to win the Finals MVP award. Kevin Durant never won it. Klay Thompson never won it. DeMarcus Cousins never won it. Draymond Green never won it. 20 out of 20 times, it was Steph Curry. And then for each of the other teams that ended up winning the championship, it's just their big stars that ended up winning Finals MVP. Embiid 4 times, Harden twice, Kyrie Irving twice, and Kawhi Leonard twice as well. And so there you have it. Those are all of the results in this simulation of the 2019 NBA playoffs 30 times over. Do me a favor down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think either the most surprising thing was out of these simulations or what you think is actually going to happen. Something that happened in this simulation that you think will actually end up coming true in the real NBA playoffs. And like I said in the beginning, this was just for fun. And like I said in the previous section as well, if you did this simulation 100 times or 200 times, it would probably be a little bit more statistically accurate, and some of the more likely outcomes might have had a higher percentage of actually happening in each simulation. But I'm not going to sit here and simulate the playoffs 100 or 200 times. And honestly, doing it 25 times for the regular season and 30 times for the playoffs took plenty of time as it was. And like I said, it's plenty enough to just have fun with and look at the numbers and kind of see how things turned out. One other thing before the video ends, I know things have been a little bit weird lately with uploads and I missed like an entire week. I was on vacation. I'm going to try and get videos out every other day now, try and get as many high quality videos as I can up. So every other day is going to be the schedule from now on, unless I change it at some point in the future. But I apologize for missing, about a week or so of uploads. But hey, I needed a vacation. I went on one and now I'm back. But with all of that said, that is going to be the end of today's video. I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.